All right, well, welcome to Typography. This is DES 113. We are in our second week. Can you believe that? We're already halfway through this mod. I swear these mods fly by so quickly. We just finished week one. We've wrapped that up. So you should have already turned in your typeface portrait and your typesetting exercise for the assessment one. How did you feel the assessment one went, the typesetting exercise? That one was a little bit more involved, I should say. Good. Okay. It was kind of a test to see how well you could follow some instructions, but hopefully the tutorial made it a little easier. You guys were able to get that turned in. Good. Yes. So if you've worked with InDesign before, it's a good refresher. Just a lot of little nuances, how to get used to the tools, how to navigate, how to find certain boxes and dialog boxes and using the tools and just trying to format correctly is always the challenge. But you guys did really good. I've been really impressed with the work that's been turned in so far. We're only in week one and you guys have already blown me away with your portrait designs. I think it's awesome, going above and beyond. I love that. Yes, and so that one, so I have a student saying that one was a little that assessment one was a little challenging because they were trying to do it by making paragraph and character styles, and it didn't come out at first. So yes, that's a little bit more of the intermediate advanced part, is to create those paragraph and character styles. While they're very helpful, they can be a little tricky. So for anyone starting out, I definitely think that would be a little tricky as well. But I'm glad you were able to work through it, Raven. All right, so let's begin. We're going to go ahead and jump into our itinerary for today. So week 2 live session, this is our agenda. We may or may not be able to get to everything, but I'm going to hope we can pack it all in. I want this to be heavily design, less of a lecture, more heavily design, practice, exercises, demos. I'm going to kind of go over some fun things, some things that aren't necessarily part of this week's work, but also some tips and tricks on how to navigate through InDesign and to create some fun things. So Type Tuesday, so inspiration and type I practice. All right, so the week 1 review, you already should have received your grading and feedback. I made my feedback on your PDFs. I would kind of attach a new PDF with little speech bubbles, and that's where you click to find the feedback in depth. Most of you didn't require a whole lot. I thought you did really, really well, but I did want to give feedback where we can. So pay close attention to the assessment 1 feedback specifically, because you're going to want to make sure you apply that to this assignment 2. Now we only have one design assignment this week. The other assignment is a midterm test, and then we've got our discussion. So I think this is the only design related assignment that you're going to have, but it is formatting, it is typesetting, it is trying to get everything compiled correctly in InDesign. So you're going to definitely want to pay attention to the feedback given for that. All right, let's talk about week 2, your week 2 assignment. Who has looked at it? Okay, so you're aware. Can anyone tell me what we're doing? It's font category research. What does that mean? What are we going to be doing? Can anyone tell me? So basically, why is it relevant? Well, long story short, okay, so week 2 assignment is you're going to pick 8 new fonts that are not already installed on your computer, and you're going to explore Typekit. And why is this relevant? Well, with all of the font offerings available to graphic designers, kind of separating them and organizing font families into different categories is a really good way to narrow down your search choices and to find that specific font that's going to fit your purpose or your specific project. Being familiar with these classifications and categories and their appropriate uses will also help you communicate more clearly with other designers and clients. So that's why this is hugely relevant. There's some background information you can read about the type categories, classifications, the font families. You should have done most of your research in the discussion 1, kind of the history of fonts and who created them and how did they evolve and why do we have it now. But we're going to specifically delve into serifs and sans serifs. Can anyone tell me what a serif font is? Yeah, very close, Randall. So it's those little tick marks or those little feet that end of each letter that you see. So serifs are the little ending feet of each line of the character. They kind of stem from the finishing touch of a chisel and a stone. Sans serif are the fonts that don't have those feet or those little marks. And that basic sans just means without serif. So that's kind of Latin for you, but within those categories, there's other sub-classifications of fonts. Just as you do your research and as you do your homework and explore these fonts on FontKit, you're going to realize that there is just a world of fonts. And it can get a little overwhelming, so we're going to learn how to narrow down our choice for our specific project. So go and read the assignment 2, the history, the background, and then we're going to be exploring and using Typekit. I know that some of you might not have heard of Typekit before. Who has used Typekit before? Okay, so some are familiar. Okay, perfect. Then you can help me teach this because only till recently have I been using Typekit, and it's still it's a lot of fun. There's a lot that you can choose from, so you won't be hurting for choices. That's for sure. All right, I'd like to start off the class by talking about the quizzes that we're going to be having for this next week. Since you guys are in my class, I would love to, I like to reward those who come to class. Not everybody realizes I do this in the lecture, just usually the people who come to lecture. So let me pull this up and then we'll go through them together. We'll go through about 4 of them. Fun fact, you only need about 4 to get 100 points. If you do any more than that, that's just about 5 points extra credit that you can earn. So even though we don't offer extra credit in this class, if you do more than 4 in a week, or I guess if you get more than 4 right in a week, you have an opportunity to get those extra points. So it's definitely a grade booster. I did have one student email me about their grade. Why is it so low? I did so well on the assignments for the week. And it's because they missed a majority or did not do a majority of the daily checkpoints. So even though it's 5 points here, 5 points there, it does add up, and the average can really weigh your grade down or really help boost your grade up. So just make sure that you're staying on top of those. All right, so let's see, we're on Tuesday. So how many have you all done Tuesdays? Okay, so we'll move on to Wednesday. We'll do. We've got a no. Okay, well, I'll go back. All right, so we'll do Tuesdays. Okay, so it has a YouTube video that you definitely want to check out and you'll want to watch. It's a video on the type in the 20th century. Super interesting, really informative. What was an art movement that often included using typography? Is it Cubism? Yeah, do you guys know how to pronounce that? Oh, wow. Okay, so B, all around. Great job. Okay, let's do the next one. So this is Wednesdays. All right, the type design and use is very reflective of, and then you'll pick 3 options. And obviously you'll need to watch the video to find the answers, but we'll go ahead and take a look at what you need to know. So the correct answers are social trends, technology development, and art movements. Okay, so those are the 3 that you're going to want to check out. Go through the next one. This is Thursdays. So see if you can answer this. So the little feet at the end of some letter forms are called what? Serifs. Excellent. Good job, guys. Very good. Okay, so serifs is the answer. And let's do Fridays. That one was an easy one. I'm sure everybody would have got that one, huh? A feature of fonts in the modern classification is blank. What do you guys think? Yeah, my guess would be no serifs too. Let's see if we're right. Oh, I guess we have to watch the video. Watch the 6-minute video. The correct answer is big contrast between thick and thin strokes. All right, and let's do one more to make it 4. Most of the time typefaces, or most of the time blank typefaces are preferred for the web. What do you guys think? Sarah? Sans serif is the answer. So sans serif typefaces are preferred for the web. Okay. All right. So we'll stop there. We'll jump back into our quiz. Hopefully that helped you guys. Screenshot it. Do whatever you want to do. Just write it down. And then you'll be on your way to getting all 5s this week. All right. Let's jump back into our PowerPoint slide. Okay, and then I'm sorry, I was supposed to, I got so excited to teach this video class. I'm gonna go ahead and share the video real quick just to introduce myself, say hello. How is everybody's Christmas? How everybody's holiday? Does everyone have the tree up yet? Oh, good. I must admit, I'm one of those overzealous ones. I put my tree up before Thanksgiving. I was so excited. But by the time New Year's comes, I take it down. I'm done. Good. Oh, I'm glad. Oh, yeah, if you have a big dog, definitely. He'll knock it over. Gotta put up a gate or something, huh? Or just bribe it. Make sure promise it some Christmas ham. Okay, so week 1 grades should be in. If you didn't get any feedback, let me know immediately. But otherwise, everything should be graded and submitted. Week 2 overview. Let's talk about our slides. And we're going to talk about some fonts. I do want to go over some exercises first. Let's talk about the assignment 2 before we jump into our lecture, since anyone who's on the East Coast, we can make sure you guys can step out if you need to. Okay, so let's pull up InDesign. Wanted to briefly talk about week 2 discussion. There's 4 things to cover. Make sure you hit those 4 bullets. There's no specific right or wrong choices and considerations, but I just want to make sure you guys are staying anxiously engaged in the discussion. I want good discussion, ask questions, engage with each other. I want to make sure that you're giving each other good feedback, share visual examples where you can. Those of you who lost points on last week's was just simply not staying active enough in the class, or perhaps not fulfilling all the points in the prompt. So just make sure you read the instructions carefully. All right, let's talk about week 2's assignment. I'm going to go through this a little bit. So we're going to explore Typekit a little bit. And I'm going to pull up a visual example for you. I'm going to talk about what Typekit is. So let me switch to InDesign. I encourage you to follow along if you can. This will definitely save some time. And as always, I'm going to be posting shorter tutorials on how to do these assignments, so don't feel like you have to take frantic notes, but just make sure that you pay attention so that we can action these together. All right. So first thing is first, what is Typekit? Can anyone tell me what Typekit is? Any guesses? Whoever's used them? So if you take your type tool, well, I'm waiting for the answers to flow in. I'm just going to encourage you to get your type tool and just click and drag a box on a new document. Okay, and then you can just type something in it, type a word. I'll make this large so you can see it. Okay, so there's my, I'll just type Typekit. So we know that's what we're talking about. So someone said it's Adobe's extra fonts. Exactly. That's right, Vicki. Adobe's extra fonts. And then Raven said a site through Adobe where you can find fonts. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Not all of them are free, but yes, just like you said, Lauren, they're fonts to use from Adobe. So if you highlight your text and go up here at the top in your character control panel, and there's a place where you can adjust the type of font family. You can change it. But here at the top right, it says TK, which is Typekit. Fun fact, TK was my nickname growing up. You'll click this box, Add Fonts from Typekit. So Typekit is basically a subscription service for fonts that you can sync to your computer, and you can use it on your computer or use it on a website. Instead of licensing individual fonts, you can sign up for the plan that kind of best suits you and your needs. But because you're signed up with the school under the Adobe, you get the benefits of using Typekit. So fonts from Typekit can be used to make websites, t-shirts, books, posters, and more. So you don't have to worry about the royalties associated with it. There is licensing, and the full Typekit services it has an agreement that you can click on if you wanted to use it. But for class, this is for sure up for grabs. And you can expand your personal Typekit library by purchasing new fonts from the Typekit marketplace. So let me show you what happens when you click on Typekit. Just a few things you should be aware of. You have to be signed into your Adobe Creative Cloud to be able to move forward with these steps. So if you're not already signed up, please do so. If you have Adobe InDesign and you're working in it, you should already be logged in. So you'll have to just use that same email and password to get into your Creative Cloud. So let me show you what happens when you click on Typekit. This website pops up. And if you're logged into Adobe Creative Cloud and you're in InDesign, this should all look familiar. But there are tons and tons of fonts to be able to choose from. The classification is already organized for you. Sans serif, you click on that, it will change your options. Serif, if you click on that. There's slab serif, script, there's black letter, something called mono, there's hand. These are fun. I like to see these fonts are a lot of fun, and decorative. So you're not just limited to your Arial, Helvetica, Apple Chancery, you know, the Comic Sans. There's a lot of fonts to choose from. Yeah, so, and even some of you have used these a few times. So yeah, these are Adobe's extra fonts that you can use, that's at your disposal. So say there's a font that you really want to check, and one of the on the assignment 2, it requires you to pick slab serif font. So you're basically supposed to pick a font from each classification. So for slab serif, for instance, I'm just going to pick this first one, Aglet Slab. So I'll click on it. And I'll try to find out its availability. So as you can see, you have to pay for some of these versions of this font. But down here, there's a button that will say sync right here. And this one means that it doesn't cost. So this is free to you. So you click sync, and then it will go into your synced fonts right up top here, top right. If you click it, okay, if you click it, then this is where it's kind of your library of fonts that you've synced. And then you'll want to pull up your Creative Cloud. And once you do, I'll show you what it looks like. Let me just share my desktop. That might be easier from clicking screen to screen. Okay, so here's my messy desktop. Once you do, though, here is your Creative Cloud. And it's already synced, it's already check marked, and then you'll hit sync fonts from Typekit. And it will say it's already synced, and it pulls up some more information. You can also add this to your InDesign library, okay? So this is how you use Typekit. This is where you're going to be getting your fonts from, all right? And so are there any questions about this, how to find it? how to find it, how to use it? Okay, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I won't dwell on it too much, but I did want to make you aware of that. Your Typekit plan can give you access to the fonts for as long as your account is active. So you guys as students, you have these active accounts, you can use these fonts. In fact, use them as much as you'd like. So that's Typekit. And then when it comes to syncing the fonts to your desktop, I'll go into more detail in our demo. But you can start by browsing the library of fonts. You can toggle between the default Japanese fonts or the default fonts. And at the top of this page here, and kind of play around with it, explore what kind of options you have. Then to show only those font families available to sync, you want to uncheck the include web only families. So you just want to make sure that box stays unchecked. Then you can add additional filters, like you can narrow the search results, filter by classification, properties. You can also combine any number of filters, such as sans serif fonts, with low contrast that support both English and Spanish. So that's also an option. There's a way to sort by name, what new fonts they've put out here. And when you find a font you like I said, click the font card to go to the family page. And then you're just going to find on the font family page, you're going to click the sync button like I showed you next to each font that you want to use. Now, obviously, you can't use the ones with the shopping cart icon, but you can use the free ones, and you can click sync. And the Creative Cloud desktop app on your computer will get the sync selections from Typekit. And these new fonts will be listed in the Assets font tab. So you'll click sync just like I showed you. It'll go to your synced fonts here up top. And when you do that, as if you are signed up for Creative Cloud, it will automatically put it in your Adobe Creative font assets folder. Okay, and once it's in that folder, you're going to go to Assets Font tab, and then if the fonts don't sync to Creative Cloud, you'll have to go through some troubleshooting, but the fonts from Typekit will be added to the fonts menu in each application. So alongside all of your installed fonts, they will immediately be available in most programs. So just some programs may need to be restarted to add the synced fonts to the menu. But like if you're using Microsoft Office programs, that would have to be restarted or rebooted. But for the most part, once you click it, it should automatically be included into your library. All right, so that's Typekit. So we won't dwell too much on that, but I want to jump back into InDesign real quick. If I can find it. And we're going to go over a few fun things. Okay, so let's talk about the assignment. Go ahead and get the document set up, the 8.5 by 11. And all of you should be familiar with how to set up a document. You'll just go to File at the top of the menu, New Document, and then click on Facing Pages. We want to deselect that box. Again, facing pages is only if we're doing documents that need pages side by side, but in this case, we don't need it. We just need one page. So number of pages, we'll say 1. Deselect the box that says facing pages. Page size is a standard letter size, 8.5 by 11. And it looks like we're going to need 2 columns. So go ahead and enter in the number 2. Yeah, and Raven says makes a good point. So just make sure you don't have a lot of other things running, because Illustrator can use a lot of resources. Right now we're working in InDesign. So for this project, week 2 assignment, we're going to be in InDesign. But yes, the more programs you have open, the slower it goes. Just like me, I'm running about 50 different programs right now for this video tutorial. So everything runs very slow on my end. So I appreciate your patience. But that's a good reminder, is to close down anything that you don't need. To help you, there's a lot of instructions, and it might seem a little overwhelming at first. But if you just click on the example, the sample assignment, to see what it's supposed to be, it'll be a whole lot simpler than it sounds. So 8.5 by 11, you're going to want 2 columns, sorry, not 3. And then that's about it when it comes. The margins are just defaulted, so you're going to hit OK. And the purple line, this magenta line here that you see, is your margin line. You want to keep your text boxes within your margin line, okay? So you're going to click and drag a text box and follow along with me. And then we're going to click and drag another text box. Now, I personally recommend that you do the write-up portion in Word document and then flow it into the text boxes. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to catch the misspellings because InDesign doesn't underline a word that's misspelled. It doesn't correct grammar. So what you're going to need to do is probably want to type it up in Word and then just copy and paste it, or flow the document into these columns. So like we practiced, you're going to select this text box, click this larger lower right anchor point, this larger white box anchor point, and you're going to click somewhere into the next box, and you'll notice that they're linked up. If you go to View, Extras, and then go to Show Text Threads, it'll show that these, you see this horizontal blue line, it'll show that these two text boxes are linked. So when you flow text into the first one, it'll automatically move into the second one. So when you change something, you won't have to change it twice. So it's a great way to kind of fill text. So I just flowed my document in. As an example, we're going to need to do, how many did we say? 8? We're going to need 8 paragraphs. Okay, so we'll just pretend there's 8 paragraphs there. Okay, and then we'll begin our formatting. So I'm going to stop here, and I want you guys to take a minute or two and just practice drawing those 2 text boxes in your 2 columns. And then I want you to link the text boxes. So remember, if you go to View, Extras, View, Extras, and Show Text Threads, it will show you that your text boxes are linked. So once you've done that, go ahead and let me know if you want to share your screen and just show me that you've got that part of the document set up. Okay, so Randall's asking View, then you'll click on Show Text Threads. And that's only after you've linked the 2 boxes. So you'll need to link them. So I'll step backwards. Okay, so you should have your 2 text boxes. There's one. And then with your type tool, you're going to click and drag, and you want to stay within those magenta margin lines. You don't want the box to hang over or under. You want it to line up perfectly. And if your smart guides are turned on, it will line it up for you. Okay, so you'll click on your first text box. Down here at the bottom right, there's a larger white anchor point. You're going to click that. You notice how your mouse changes. Looks like there's text. You'll click anywhere in the next text box, and then you'll see this this like angled blue line kind of showing that these 2 text boxes are linked together. And then that means that you can flow text into them. So once you've written your report or your paragraphs, you can flow the text in. That's okay. Randall, do you want to share your screen so we can see it? If you click that share screen icon, there you go. Okay, perfect. So it's perfectly done. So yeah, you just don't have any text yet, but it does show that those text boxes are linked. So now you can just go to File, Place, and place your Word document, or you can copy and paste the text inside your InDesign once you've written it up. So excellent. You have done it correctly up to this point, so very, very good. Does anyone else want to share? Or are we all good? Okay, Raven, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look. Very well done. Good. So you even flowed the text in, some placeholder text. Excellent. So can you click on your view threads? Go to view and then show text threads. Go to view extras. Yep. And then show text threads. There you go. Can you hit, let's see, grab your selection tool. There we go. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So it's linked. Very well done. Great job, guys. Okay, you guys are quick learners. All right, so that's how we set that document up. Now we simply just need to answer a bunch of questions. So you're going to type the name of the font. So I'm just going to type in, and remember, we're going to be doing fonts that we don't have already logged into our computer. You're going to go to Typekit and find them. But for this one, I'm just going to do Minion Pro, and then I'm going to enlarge the subheading a little bit so that kind of format this so it stands out. Then I'm going to, you don't need to make your paragraph that specific font. It does need to be legible, so just pick a standard font that's easy to read. And then just answer a bunch of questions. They've kind of given it to you, laid it out. But once you're done, you're going to present a total of 8 fonts from each classification. So you'll do a bold, a sans serif, a serif, like this will be Arial. This will be my sans serif. You'll want to make them the same font size, like that. And it gives a visual example of how to set it up, but you'll format it. So you'll label it. So this one would be, my Minion Pro would be serif. Whoops. Would be serif. Arial would be sans serif. And then your next one will be Amboy, or this would be decorative. And then you format that one. So you kind of see how it's supposed to be laid out. There's a few tricks that I want to show you as well, things that you're going to need to know about formatting. They don't have to be bold, no. I'm just doing that so you can see it easier on my screen. No, this could be Arial regular. It just has to be sans serif or serif, whatever you want to do, so you can format it. Good question, though. That's a good question. They don't have to all be bold. You'll need one from each classification, like I showed you on Typekit. Another thing that we want to make sure of when we're laying out our article is if you highlight all of your text, you're going to want to go to paragraph, your paragraph control settings here at the top. And then over here in the middle somewhere, there's a box called hyphenate. You want to uncheck that. And what that's going to do is it's going to get rid of all the hyphenated words that get cut off at the edge. So it makes for an easier read. If you don't see it up here, another place where you can find it is up here in your drop-down window menu. If you click on Type and Tables, oops, click on Paragraph, and then here at the bottom left of your paragraph control settings, there is a box called Hyphenate. If you click on uncheck Hyphenate, you just saw that some paragraphs got shifted. It will get rid of those hyphens. So that makes for an easier, cleaner read. Another thing that you want to do is make sure you keep your text boxes within this magenta margin line. And you don't want your text boxes to cross over into this column area. You want to keep the gutter clean. That's called a gutter, is that space between your columns. And then there's a question you think you missed when you were talking about the Word document. Where do you find? Okay, so yeah, great question, Brandon. So I'll answer your question publicly because I think it's a great question. So what you're going to do is I'll just get rid of this. Once you have your document set up, you're going to go into Word, and they're going to ask you questions on the assignment too, like, let's see, what are some of the questions? What type of personality do you think it has and why? Where would you use this font most often? Headlines for an entertainment publication or body text for a corporation? So it's going to give you a prompt of like maybe 5 questions. You're going to answer that. Each paragraph needs to be 50 to 60 words, and you need to make sure that you stick to that. And then once you answer those questions, you're going to put it in Word. Basically, you're going to type it up in Word. Once you have your Word document, you're going to click onto make sure your cursor is blinking in your first paragraph column. Go to File, New. I'm sorry, I'm setting up a new document. Sorry, rewind. File, Place. And then you're going to find where you saved that Word document. And then you'll hit OK, and it will flow it into your columns for you. Hopefully that finished. Okay, awesome. Sorry, again, going back to Raven's point, I think I've got too many programs loading if my computer's thinking. All right, so that's what you'll do. Okay, good questions. Any other questions? Actually, I should probably slow down. Any other questions? Okay, so basically we want to remember to format the font in the specific font classification, label the classification. You want to label the font and format it in that font. The body text does not need to be in that font. It might get harder to read, especially if you're doing like a handwritten font or a script font, but you just need to make it clean and clear. Let's see, we want return spaces between each one. And just make sure that you keep it clean and concise. We want to make sure our baseline grid is set up. Yes, Raven, what a great question. Thank you for reminding me. Raven's asking if there's any way we need to package this to ensure that we get the fonts that you're using. Because if I don't have, say you chose Minion Pro for your serif font, but I don't have that on my computer, it's going to show a default font, and that messes with formatting sometimes. So what I recommend is that you don't have to, because you're going to just submit a PDF. So in this case, if you were to submit me the InDesign file, yes, you would need to package it, but we're not going to worry about that. So just submit a PDF, and it will just be like a screenshot of what it's supposed to look like. Yeah. So good question. If you wanted to package it, you don't have to, but if you wanted to package it for your own files, you would go to File, Package, and follow the steps. But for this assignment, I only need a PDF. So you're only going to be graded on the PDF. If you send me your InDesign file, I'm going to have to dock points because I won't have all the fonts on my computer that you've chosen. So it's going to mess with formatting, and it will look kind of crazy. So just make sure you just send me the PDF. But yes, excellent idea to do for yourself, especially if you're saving these assignments for your portfolio. You definitely want to make sure you package all of your stuff so that you've got the fonts and you've got any other images or graphics that you've used. Probably not for this class because we're not using graphics in this class, but definitely the fonts for sure. That's a good point, Raven. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, we're going to talk about baseline grid. Do you remember how to set up our baseline grid? Once we've got it all formatted, we're going to go to our InDesign here at the top, Preferences, and click on Grids. This is just going to be a refresher course. You're going to make sure that your increment every matches your leading, okay? Whatever your leading is in your paragraph formatting controls, your increment needs to match that. So if 12 is the increment, we need to make sure our leading says 12. View threshold, just put 50, that's fine. Top of page, everything stays the same. Hit OK, then go to View, Display, let's see, Grids and Guides, Show Baseline Grid. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to zoom in here. You can see that not all of my text is lining up on these blue lines as it should. It's not lining up on the notebook paper. Don't worry so much about the headline, as I want to make sure that you're lining up your lines of text, that they're all falling on the baseline grid as they should. Simple fix for this is if you simply click on or highlight all of the text inside, you can just do a Command A on a Mac or Control A on a PC. Click, make sure your cursor is blinking in one of the text box and Command A. And then here at the top under your paragraph formatting controls, there is an icon with 2 even columns. And this evens out the baseline grid. So you can see it now puts it on the baseline grid. You also want to go to your character formatting controls, which is where you keep your font family, font size. And you want to make sure that the leading is correct. So you're going to go to Window, type in Tables, Character. And for the leading, we need it to be 12, right? Because that was our increment every. So once we change that, it will now fix everything. So now, as you can see, everything's lining up beautifully on the baseline grid, on the blue lined paper, just as it should. And even going across here, everything's lining up. So that's one thing I'm going to be checking. Not whether you did that, but it will be pretty obvious if your lines are not lining up, okay? So you want to make sure that your increment every matches your leading. Any other questions? Let me go look and see if there's anything else you need to know. Just keep the text aligned, legible, and within the margins. Those are the first things. And don't add, oh yeah, here's a big one. Don't add color or any decorative elements to this. This is just simply formatting just follow the directions. You want to focus on the look of the fonts without any distractions. So that's the name of the game here. You can even put an extra return here to give some breathing room. You don't need references because you're pulling it from Typekit, right? So I know where you're pulling the font from. Good question. That's a good question. So you don't need to cite sources or references because it's just from Typekit. And the whole point of this exercise is to get you familiar with browsing through Typekit, getting familiar with the fonts that it offers, showing you options within each classification. So that's how we structure this assignment. So it should be pretty straightforward. Again, I'll do a tutorial where we kind of simplify it, and I can go through it pretty quickly. And you definitely need 8 different fonts from Typekit. That's right. So you could even number it if that's helpful. 1, 2, if that's easier to kind of organize it. But I'm going to look for neat and clean. I'm going to look for, is everything lining up? Is it legible? Is it black and white? Okay. You don't have to give it a special headline or anything. It just can be 1 through 8. And that's the assignment. When you are done, you're going to go to File, Export, and then you're going to give it a name. Remember the structure, it's DES 113. This is assignment 2, first and last name, and you'll save it somewhere where you remember. Make sure the format down here says PDF, and then make sure the preset at the top says smallest file size. So we just want it to be small. Quick upload for you, quick download for me. Hit export, and it will create a PDF, and then you'll that's what you upload. That's what you're going to put in on the class upload. Or is it, I was going to say Dropbox, but that's what you're going to upload to the assignment. Any other questions? That's how you're going to do week 2 assignment. And that's the only designing we're going to be doing this week. The other assignment is a midterm quiz. So, or that's what week 2's assessment is. So you're just going to have a quiz to take and then the discussion to stay active in, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. We're going to run into the slides. Okay, I had a video I wanted to share too, kind of get us, let me see if I could share that video. It might be better. Start that video. This is the movie trailer for Helvetica. Have any of you seen this? Probably not unless you're like a documentary guru, but this movie was created and dedicated to the font. It's all about Helvetica. What did Helvetica tell you today? Have you seen it before? And it kind of makes you more aware of the companies that are using it, the brands that use it, and the logos that it's found in, okay? So we'll just watch a quick video. Can you see my screen okay? Let's see. Oh, it's not sharing it. There we go. All right. Let me know if sound doesn't come in either. Can you hear it? All right. So what do you guys think? Seen a few, you've probably seen it around and you never even knew it. That's what's so cool about it. All right. All right, so I'm gonna grab my slides for this next segment. And then I'm gonna jump into another design exercise for you guys. Trying to think. Let's go over a few slides and then we'll do some more design practice. I just wanna make sure you have the basics. Okay. So we're going to get to know type families a little bit better. This is, after all, a typography class. So we're going to talk a little bit more about typography, type families. It's really interesting. Fonts are kind of structured like families are. Some families are big, some families are small. And the interesting thing about this is that you can have, and no two families are the same. So that's kind of funny how they're structured. But let's talk about, let me get my pages up. I'm going to skip around here. Okay, so choosing the right font. Fonts are the clothes that words wear. This is an interesting way to think about it. Can anyone tell me why fonts are important? Why is it important to dedicate a whole class to it? Yeah, typography is the first thing that people see because it makes or breaks your design. That's right, it sends a message. It can change the whole message we're trying to present. Absolutely, they set the mood. And we talked a little bit about that in week 1. The designer's job, and this is your job, the designer's job is to make sure the text is dressed for the right occasion. All right, and how do we do that? Well, let's talk about classifications because that's what you're doing in your assignment too. I see a question, will there be questions on our midterm over what you're covering? Yes, there will be. Okay, and I'll be sure to show you guys, the questions are at random, so I could go through the exam with you, but you're not guaranteed to get the same questions that we go over, so it's just kind of chosen at random. So we'll be going. So you definitely want to make sure you pay attention to this. Absolutely. Yeah, font can make or break everything. So most typefaces can be classified into one of 4 basic groups: those with serifs, those without serifs, scripts, which is the kind of the fancy handwriting, and the decorative styles. Over the years, though, typographers and scholars of typography have devised various systems to more definitively characterize typefaces. Some of these systems have sources of subcategories, and we can get into that, but I don't think we're going to delve too much into it. But I just want you to know that a classification system can be helpful in identifying, choosing, and combining typefaces. So while 4 categories are clearly inadequate for design professionals, dozens become self-defeating. We have to put together somewhat of a hybrid system of styles, and you're going to explore a lot of those in Typekit. So let's review these categories: serif, slab serif, sans serif, script, hand, decorative, and then there's a lot more, those subcategories, but here's a few classifications to be familiar with. And this is what they look like. So serif type styles kind of reflect an old style. This category includes the first Roman types, originally created between the late 15th and 18th centuries. Again, we talked about those little tick marks, those little feet that are at the end of the, as you can see, at the end of the font. Whereas this traditional, the sans serifs don't have that. Okay, here's some other examples of these fonts. Oops, close out of my InDesign. All right, let's talk about slab serifs. What are slab serifs? Can anyone tell me? Do you guys know what a slab serif is? Any guesses? Slab serif typefaces became really popular in the 19th century for advertising display. These typefaces have very heavy serifs with minimal or no bracketing. Generally, changes in the stroke weight are imperceptible. So to many readers, slab serif type styles kind of look like sans serif designs with the simple addition of a heavy stroke weight serif. So let me show you what that looks like. Yeah, it's very blocky. Exactly. It's a great way to describe it. So I'll throw this in as an example. If it lets me. Oh man, it's not letting me. Hold on, I might have to do it this way. That's okay. All right, we'll move on. Anyways, it is more blocky. So Rockwell is a good example of a slab serif. Let's look at the, let's see what else. Sans serif type styles. Okay, so the sans serifs obviously are without those little feet, those little marks. And trying to see, oh yeah, the script font. So the script type styles, there's formal scripts and then calligraphic scripts. The formal scripts, these typefaces are derived from the 17th century. So here, these are kind of mimic the formal writing styles. Many characters have strokes that join them to other letters. Some do, some don't. The calligraphic scripts, these scripts mimic calligraphic writing. They can be connecting or non-connecting in the design, but many appear to have been written with a flat-tipped writing instrument. And so those make for fun to play with them. I love using calligraphic fonts. Let's see, there's decorative fonts, casual scripts. The decorative styles, this is the largest category. So we're now here on decorative. I'll talk about hand in just a minute, but the decorative, this is the most diverse, rarely used for lengthy blocks of text, but decorative typefaces are really popular for signage, headlines, or any similar situations where a strong typographic statement is needed. They frequently reflect an aspect of culture, so such as tattoos or graffiti, or they evoke a particular state of mind, a time period, or a theme. So many, such as the psychedelic or the grunge designs, these are very time sensitive and they fall out of fashion very easily. So that's why you kind of want to, that's why people use classic fonts like Helvetica, because they kind of stand the test of time. Whereas if you were to use a decorative style, it's just kind of, it's very time sensitive. So just like clothes and fashion, things go out of style very easily. So some decorative typefaces use unorthodox letter shapes, proportions to get the distinctive and dramatic results. They kind of break the mold a little bit. So some even appear three-dimensional. But again, go explore that on Typekit. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, let's keep going. Okay, and then what types of fonts are there? So there's a lot of fonts. The short answer is there's many, many, many fonts, including some crazy ones that defy categorization, but also typographers, typeface designers, and others interested in the history of typography might tell you that there are many classifications. So we know that there's several in, to choose from, but each with their own historical and technical definitions. And they'd be right if they told you that. Some classifications you may have heard of. That includes old style, black letter, so like you see here. Let's see, here we go, old style. There's the black letter, humanist, but we're not going to concern ourselves with those specifically right now. But instead, we're going to focus on the 4 basic font categories that are going to be useful to understand when you're going about choosing
a suitable font, combining fonts for your design project, or maybe discussing your type choices with other people. So serif fonts have those little feet. Sans serifs literally means without the serif. And though this point is often debated, it's commonly said that serifs make long passages in print easier to navigate. So that's why they're used a lot in print. They kind of help move your eyes along the lines of text. However, because serifs are usually small and thin, they often don't display well on pixel-based screens, which is why you would need a sans serif font for web use, especially at small sizes, just like that quiz question that we had. Number 3, the script. Let's move on to the script. So scripts are what we might think of as cursive or handwriting style fonts. They generally have connecting letters, so you can see here in this example. You'll find that script fonts come in many different styles, from elegant to fun and casual to hand-drawn. And then there's that decorative display. When you hear the font categorized as decorative, or it's kind of a display or a novelty, it all means the same thing. That font is meant to get your attention, period. They're often more unusual than practical and should only be used in small doses and for specific effects or purposes. So again, they go out of style really easily, so just make sure that you don't use them too much. You stick with a very universal, clean, classic font when you're doing your graphic design. All right, and I just wanted to, okay, so let's talk, see what's next in our slides. We might have to go to break here in just a minute. Okay, so reviewing the font styles, the individual personalities. So again, we're talking about bold, quiet, is it sensitive, is it supportive? So what I want you to do is pull up InDesign, and I want you to think of a font, and I want you to tell me what descriptive font style would you give it. Is it a humble font? Is it a flexible font? Is it a bold font or a loud font? So I want you to pick one and then tell me what descriptive word, what individual personality you would give that specific font. And then when you have it typed out, go ahead and type it out, make it big on a page. Let me know, and you can share your screen and show us and kind of tell us what font style or individual personality that specific font style has. So I'll give you guys about 2 minutes. Definitely in InDesign. Yeah, we're doing our graphic design class. This one will be in InDesign. Good question. Plus, this exercise is to help you get used to navigating in InDesign, getting comfortable using the type tool, getting comfortable formatting text. So I want you to make it large, like 100 point on your page, and or larger. And then I want you to pick a font style. And I want you to tell me what personality that font style has. Why did you pick it, and what font style does it have? And then I'll just call on volunteers. I won't, if you don't feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to. Or if you're not following along, you don't have to share. But those of you who would like to share your screen, just let me know when you have it up. And as you're doing that, I'll just talk a little bit. There's often a debate: is it a font or a typeface? And you may have heard the text that you use in InDesign projects referred to as both fonts and typefaces, and kind of wonder if the two terms mean the same thing. Sometimes they're used interchangeably, but technically and historically, in terms of typesetting, they're very different. But today, they're often used interchangeably. So if you're interested in understanding the difference, a few snappy definitions might help. One, the typeface is the design. The font is how that design is delivered. Okay, so I'll say it again. The typeface is the design, and the font is how that design is delivered. So typeface plus style plus size equals font. So I want you to pick a typeface, give it a style, give it a size, and then now we've got our font. So anybody ready to share? So to clarify, a font is what you use, a typeface is what you see. Okay, thanks, Lauren, for volunteering, being a brave soul. Okay, go ahead and share your screen. And I'll unmute you so that you can tell us a little bit about the font that you chose. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
So I chose Magnificent Personal. And I wrote down here that it's an extravagant font, and I think it's a demanding font with how bold it is and with all the different curled serifs on it.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. I like your descriptive words, demanding and extravagant. I think those are perfect descriptives. Thank you so much. Okay, does anyone else want to share? What font did you choose? Anyone else in the mood? All right, so if no one else wants to share, that's just fine. We're going to continue talking about the distinction. So all that says basically, so we learned about the difference. The typeface is the design, the font is how that design is delivered. That for most graphic design purposes today, the terms are more or less interchangeable, but fonts are the digital representations of typefaces. And we can either, with a simple click on our computer screens, change that. But unless you're talking to a typography expert who you want to impress with your superior knowledge, there's really no need to worry about the differences in this case. But what we do need to worry about is, why do font choices matter? Choosing a font. How do you know what font to use? It's a good question. Designers have been known to compare choosing fonts for design projects to choosing an outfit to wear. And it's an apt analogy. Think about what your clothes might say about you. We all have our different styles. Think about high school. I mean, we were all there was the cliques and the groups, and you were, based on what you wore, sometimes put you in one group or another. So based on what you wear, people might rightly or wrongly make assumptions about your style, your personality, your socioeconomic background, your age, or the age that you wish you were, if you were in my case, or the kind of impression you want to make. And so in different occasions and situations, these different occasions and situations call for different apparel. So you wouldn't wear a bathing suit to a job interview. We all know that. But then again, you wouldn't want to wear a suit and tie during your vacation on the beach either. So there's an element of appropriateness to consider here. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to, why do font choices matter? And you got that a lot in high school. Yeah, I think we all did. I think we were all kind of put in a group, more or less, of whether or not we wanted to be there. But that's the best example that I can give. So in terms of font choices often set the tone for the entire design. Just like you guys said, you guys are so smart and ahead of the game. That's what you were telling me. It can influence viewers' feelings toward and interactions with your design. So the font choices you make, that you choose, are going to heavily affect the way that I view and perceive the message you're sending. So just like how if you were to show up at a black tie party with your favorite threadbare t-shirt and sweatpants, people will kind of judge you on your appearance, wouldn't they? So you don't want to be that guy with your design and give viewers an excuse to make incorrect assumptions about your brand or your business. So bad typographic choices always distract from your design's message and intentions. So think of it in that terms. So sorry, Vicki. I'm sorry to hear about the technical problems. Maybe we can troubleshoot. So sorry. Let me know if there's anything I can do. In this case, you could just watch it and then watch the recording after. All right, so if you're not sure where to start, we're going to be talking about how to get down to the nitty-gritty of choosing and using fonts with an easy-to-understand explanation and even some practical tips. So think of it in this term. So we have the classification or the category, which is the ethnics of the family. So think about what kind of ethnic background you come from. Then there's the type family, so your family traits. What are some family traits that you've adopted? And then to type style, what kind of an individual personality do you have? And that's kind of the same way that we view the font families. So the basics are, your first concern in choosing a font for a project should be that it matches the message or the purpose of your design. So before you ever start browsing through fonts, especially in Typekit, on your computer, or maybe searching for a new one to buy or to download, it would be a good idea to brainstorm some of the qualities or the characteristics that you want your design to communicate. So if I were to say, okay, so for instance, your typeface portrait, what kind of face? Are you going for an old look, a vintage look, a young hip look? that will kind of determine the kind of font that you choose, right? I shot the serif. Yep, that's right. And you'll remember that. So if the serif is missing, it is a sans serif. But what also here, that way when you're choosing a font, you already have a blueprint that you can match up your font with. So this is important because every typeface has its own mood or personality. Kind of think about the mood that you woke up in this morning. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it happy or sad? Maybe it's serious, casual, playful, or elegant. You just felt elegant waking up. You're going to need to determine what a particular font is saying to you and whether that fits with your design. So it would be inappropriate if you were a law firm and you were using Comic Sans for your message, right? I wouldn't take you very seriously if you were using Comic Sans and you were a lawyer. That on the other flip side, you wouldn't want to use like something like Bleeding Cowboys for a preschool if you were a preschool and you were trying to get your message across, or abuse. That probably wouldn't be a good font to choose. So we kind of want to make sure that we're choosing the appropriate font for the appropriate message. So if the characteristics of the font that is communicating don't match the message of your overall design, then there will be a visual disconnect for the viewers, or in this case, your instructor or users of your design, and you really don't want that. We're trying to avoid that. So when you're browsing fonts, it can be easy to get caught up in all the fun and interesting choices, but don't let personal preferences get in the way. A font that you think is distinctive or stylish, like I said, may not be useful or may go out of style. It may not be appropriate for the project that you're working on. So try to set your interest aside and try to think a little bit more about what the message is that you want to get across, okay? All right, you want to consider context and audience. Letters are going to look different in different fonts, so consider this too. If as you can see, AWS is used in several different fonts, but look at the way that the characters interact with each other. Some are hard to read. This one here in the middle looks like AUS almost, so the message gets lost there. Same with the one on the far right in the middle. So we want to make sure that when we're designing that the message is clear, it's not confused. Here's an example. Which design do you prefer? Which one's easier to read? There's not a real wrong answer, it's just preference, but as you're proving my point, the second one is definitely easier to read. The message gets across a little bit easier. Yeah, so definitely the one on the right is the one where our eye says, hey, that says glitter and I like that font, and it's easy to read. Whereas the other one, the G is not very prominent and the message gets lost here. It's a cool font. There's nothing wrong with it, but in this case, it wasn't the best choice for the bag. Okay. So it looks like we're going to go take a break here. It's a lot of talking. We're going to take a break, and I'll go through 2 more slides before we take our break, and then we're going to go into the design portion. We're going to do some more exercises. All right, finding fonts. I'm sure you guys are all aware of where to find fonts. There's the font, 1001 free fonts, promotionals. Just be careful of malware. DaFont has a lot of malware on it now that it's so heavily used, but just make sure that you're aware of that. But definitely Typekit is a good place to start. All right, and then we talked about Typekit. This is part of your Adobe CC subscription. So fonts are synced through your internet connection. You just have to be online to sync the free fonts. They can be accessed through Illustrator or InDesign. And then when you're choosing and testing the fonts in Typekit, just look at the differences of different fonts and styles. Just explore that and take time to do that as part of the assignment. All right, we're going to run through here. I don't think we're going to cover this today, at least not right now. So we'll go ahead and take our 10-minute break, give you guys a chance to stretch your legs a little bit. Keep InDesign open, because when we come back, we're going to go over some more design. I'm going to show you a few fun things we can do in InDesign, kind of jazz up our stuff, our typography, I should say. Are there any questions before we go to break? All right, we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Okay, and we're back. So we'll go ahead and pull up InDesign. We're going to have probably 40 minutes to go over some fun design tricks in InDesign. Let me get my InDesign pulled up. I'll close out of this so you can see it. So I'm going to do a quick type exercise and I want you to follow along with me. So can anyone tell me what tracking is? So tracking is the space between the letters. Yep, exactly, Raven. Good job, Amanda. The space between the letters. So I want you to practice adjusting your tracking. So take your type box, your type tool, draw a text box, type something in it, and then I want you to practice expanding the tracking or decreasing the tracking. Now you can do this by holding down the Alt Option button and the left and right arrows once you've highlighted the word. That's an easy, quick keyboard shortcut. Or if you want to know where to find it, you go to your window drop-down menu, Types and Tables, click on Character, and this character box pops up. You'll change your tracking right here. So to decrease it, you can do it manually. You can also enter the number, or you can just hold down your Alt Option button, highlight it, and use your left and right arrow keys. So again, the tracking is the space between your letters. This also helps when you're trying to remove widows. Widows are these little word danglers that's circled here. When you're trying to remove widows, you can kind of increase or decrease a line of text, or increase or decrease the tracking of a line or text to get that dangler up on this. So in the second example here, that dangler now moves up on the next line. So it's not hanging all by himself. So we call that a widow when a word is just hanging off of a paragraph. We really want to avoid widows. So I was going to say also in your assignment, you want to make sure you don't have any widows. All right. Now in this case, this word would be a widow. This word here. So to fix that, I can just highlight this line of text, or I can highlight the whole paragraph and just decrease the tracking just a little bit until I get that up to the next line. Now, I say use this tastefully because you can make text look too squished. You see that? That can look too squished or too spread out. So just make sure that you use it appropriately. And try to use it so it doesn't look that different from the other paragraphs because you don't want it to stand out too much. But that is how we get rid of the widows. All right, any questions about that? Okay, next one. Okay, so this is where we get into the fun part. So InDesign is the best Adobe tool for creating traditional or expertly crafted typography. Designers are often quick to jump over to Illustrator or maybe Photoshop if they want to create more unique and contemporary text effects. However, with a little know-how, you can really create cutting-edge creative text effects without ever having to leave InDesign. And so this tutorial I'm going to demo for you is going to show you how to create not five, but we'll probably do 2 striking typographic effects. Might not have time for all of them, but just using simple tools and tricks available to you in InDesign. So you can follow these tutorials or you can watch the recording and pause and rewind me, or you can follow along. So let me know if you're going to be following along so I know how quickly or how fast to move or how slow to move. We're going to work with our page setup. So hopefully you can just set up a decent 8.5 by 11, that's fine. But feel free to skip this step if you're going to be incorporating a particular text effect into a document that you've already created. You don't have to set up my specific document. I just went here with a standard 8.5 by 11. So once you do that, you'll just create File, New, Document, and then you'll set up your document. Once you have that, you can just click OK, and your document is ready to use. So you'll have a blank page. So let's start with, let's do this demo first. So we're going to create a text inside text effect. So for this effect, you're going to need to use two fonts. One that is contrasting, like serif or sans serif, and one inside that is sans serif or serif. Just use the opposite one. So grab a type tool or your type tool. You'll kind of click and drag here. You're going to type the word, just any word. In this case, I just did inside. And then for the font, I'm going to just use my drop-down menu and choose something really thick. In this case, I want a sans serif, so I'm going to try to find Arial Black. That's a nice, thick, bold font. And I'm going to increase the size. Okay, and you can do all this from your character control panel here. This box will help you increase the font size. And then I'm going to kind of use the tracking a little bit and tighten the tracking on this so the letters are a little closer together. So this first font, we're going to form the enclosing text. So this is going to be the sans serif choice that I made. The second font will fill the characters of the first font. So it doesn't need to have a particular style or a weight, but try to select a typeface that fits with the look of your design. So in this case, I've gone for kind of a sans serif all within this. I've gone with it. Sorry, let me start over. I've gone with a sans serif for my big bold font, and then on the inside, I'm going to use a serif font. So whichever word you want to fill with text, create text frames for each individual character. So we're going to select the text box, go to Object, create, let's see, create type, create outlines. And then you'll just right click and click on, let's see, go back to Object. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to ungroup it here. Release compound path. Okay, so you'll go to Object, Paths, Release compound path. Sorry, I had to think for a minute. Okay, so I'll stop here. How many of you are going to be following along? Okay, Amanda, I'll slow down. Perfect. So you'll type a word, you'll make it big, like 600 point, and then you'll just create the outlines, and then to ungroup the outlines, you'll just go to Object, Paths, Release compound path. So now each letter is its own vector. Okay, it's ungrouped. And you can even mess with the spacing between letters. So like the D is a little closer to that E, you can kind of move it over, kind of close the gap a little, because some of the letters are a little closer together than others. Like that. So now I've got that all selected, and I'm going to enlarge it. I'm going to get it within my margin line. Like that. Perfect. Okay, so you can also use your grids and guides for this. You can pull down you can line up your grids and guides. In this case, I'm just pulling my ruler over to kind of measure the space between my letters. Make sure these are all spread out evenly. You can get real precise if you want. Let's see what else. So once you've got that set up, step 3 is select the first character's text frame. So we went to type, create outlines. We already did that, so we're ahead of the game. Repeat for each text frame, and then each character is going to be converted into a vector outline. Then you're going to select all of the outline characters, and we're going to go to the fill and click on none. We don't want it to have a fill on the inside, okay? So then you're going to select the type tool and hover over the first character. So I grab my type tool and notice how the icon has changed a little bit. Now you'll see my cursor blinking inside that eye. So the same concept goes for linking text boxes. We're going to be linking these letters as text boxes. So you're going to see the icon change from a type icon with straight brackets to a type icon with curved brackets. And when you click on the letter, you'll click once and the vector shape will be transformed into a text frame. So to switch, choose the selection tool or click on V and escape, and then select the first character. So here, the I is the character I selected, and like I said, a small white square appears here at the bottom. You're going to click that larger white anchor point and then click in each letter. So I'm going to click that bottom right square, and I'm clicking in each letter, and with my view set to show text threads, I'm showing now that all of my letters are linked. So this is an easy way to show that your letters or your text boxes are linked together. So same concept as we did in the last exercise. All right, Raven and Amanda, are you guys hanging with me? I'll stop here if you need to catch up. So, okay, so good question, Raven. So how did you turn them into a text box? So I'll back up here. So we kind of ended here where we went to type, create outlines, and then we went to object, paths, release compound path. So now each letter is its own. I highlighted all of the letters, and then at the top I give it set the fill to none, so it has a transparent fill. And then I grab the type tool and click in one of the letters, and now it's just automatically a text box. Does that answer your question, Raven? You don't have to do that for each letter, Randall, unless your computer wants you to. I'm able to group it and do it individually. Once your cursor is blinking in the text box, you can now select your selection tool and link each one. You're gonna have to click that bottom right hand anchor point, just like that. And now all of them are linked, and you can see this through going to view and going to extras, show text threads. Any other questions before I move forward? I'm happy to slow down too before we move to the step number 5. So basically you open the swatches panel. You can go to window, color, swatches right here, and then set the fill to none. You can deselect the characters by clicking once outside of the page, or you can highlight all of them and make sure it's set to none before you link the text boxes. So step 5 is selecting the type tool and hovering over the first character of the word. In this case, it's the I for me. You're going to see the icon change from a type icon with the straight brackets to an icon that's curved. And doing that will allow you to click inside, and now it becomes a text box. All right, now we're going to move on to step 6. You're going to select the type. It can be any type. In this case, I'm going to go to type fill with placeholder text, and it's just going to fill it for me. So in the character formatting controls panel, you'll set the font to whatever you want it to be. In this case, I'll just do Minion Pro. I'm just going to keep it simple. The font size I'm going to shrink way down to like 7 or 8. Like that. And then the leading, you can also set really low to 8. I want a tight leading so that I can fit more text in, and it will fill in my letters a lot easier. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to have to continue to fill with placeholder text. There we go, once you get it formatted. Okay, you can set your orientation to left justify with the last line left if you wanted to, kind of like that. But I like the look of the left aligned. Okay. So you should, your font should look like this. It should already be flowed in. I'm going to use a bold, condensed, even. And I'm just shrinking the text a little bit so it looks, and bolding it so it's easier to see. Until I kind of just mess with it until you get the desired effect. It doesn't have to be exact. But once you click inside your first character and go type fill with placeholder text, you can also insert your own text to create an artistic effect with extra meaning if you have a message you're trying to get across. You can switch to preview view by tapping W on the keyboard to view the effect and adjust sizing. So once you get rid of those outlines, you can see what you need to do to create any other adjustments you want to create the look you're going for. You can adjust sizing, hyphenation. That's another thing we can take off. I can highlight this, go to my paragraph formatting controls and click hyphenate, so that clears up any of the hyphenating stuff. You can mess with the tracking. So by highlighting everything, I can kind of squish the tracking a little bit more. That kind of makes things a little tighter. Just mess with it until you're happy with the result. So in this case, I'm good. Now I'm just going to grab a colored box. You can grab your rectangle tool on your toolbar. You can click and drag around your type, and you can give it a color. In this case, I'm going to give it a dark blue. So if you go to your swatches panel and double click on the color, it'll bring up your swatches options, and this will allow you to kind of custom make a color. In this case, I want to do a dark blue. When you find the color you like, you can hit OK, right click and send it to back. You can highlight all the text inside and set the text to white. So you can do kind of a reverse text look. And let's see if there's anything else that you guys need to know. There we go. I'm just filling in that D with setting it to fill. So now you can see my message here. I kind of want to make sure that all the edges are filled in, so I'll probably do it like this and see it a little bit better. But you can create more of a contrast for your typography by setting light colored text against a dark background. This also helps give a dramatic effect to your typographic illustration here. You can select the rectangle tool like I did and just drag it to extend across the whole of the page. Set the stroke to none, and the fill, you can give it a color, a custom color, or any other dark contrasting swatch of your own choice, and then choose the white font as your fill. And then you're done. This sort of typography effect best suits a large scale setting because it's very hard to read, but it could be used as part of a poster or a banner. But are there any questions here? This is the end of this tutorial. Just want to make sure I didn't lose anybody along the way. Were you guys able to keep up? Apologize if I moved too fast. And if you followed along, would you like to share your screen so we can see? Good question. So the inside of the D is kind of its own little box. So I just set that to the same color swatch that I created. Does that help, Amanda? So I just selected it and then I picked the same color swatch that I used as the background. There we go. Yep. Any other questions? Looks like some of you got it. Do any of you want to share your screen? Okay, Amanda, let me close out and then you can share. Let's take a look. Go ahead and click that share screen icon, Amanda, and then you can pull up your your file if you still want to share it. There we go. Then I'll go ahead and, oh, awesome. So yeah, exactly. So it flowed very nicely. I like that white text on that dark pink background. Very, very good. Yeah, so essentially that's the exact concept. Love it. Very good. You followed along very easily. Good job. So yeah, like I said, could be part of a poster or a banner. This is more of a large scale setting where you would use this technique, but this really adds some interest, especially when you zoom out. Kind of gives some visual interest there for sure. Kind of makes you look twice. Okay, let's talk about this. Here's another tutorial of something you can do. It's called creating a block color text effect. This is a simple yet really highly impactful text effect to introduce some visual interest. You can also give it pops of color and an otherwise solid block of text. So the step one, you're gonna, on page 2 of your InDesign document, you can just create another page. You're gonna select the type tool and you're gonna drag to create a text frame. I'm gonna create a text frame within my margins here. Then you want to type a phrase about 4 sentences in length, and then you're going to set the type to all caps. So in this case, I did blocks of color. And typography can look really cool. And then I'm just going to copy and paste that a few times. Just like that. So that's what it looks like. So just type a sentence, all caps, that will give you the look you're going for. And then you can adjust the font size in the drop-down menu in the character formatting controls. So if you highlight your first line of text, this first one, character formatting controls, and then you'll click on something that's fun. In this case, I think I used, it's called Schmutz, ICG. So I'll just copy that same font, and then I'm going to increase the font size until it kind of takes up that first line. Okay. Then you're going to set the orientation to justify all lines and uncheck the hyphenate in the paragraph. So I'm going to highlight this, go to my paragraph control settings, uncheck hyphenate. And then the next line of text, I'm going to make this even larger. So I'll go back to my character formatting controls and adjust my second paragraph. I'm going to do both lines here. Till it gets to about 2 big lines. There we go. And then these last 2. I'm going to increase this part. And then can look really cool. I'm going to make nice and big. Okay, and then this last line, I'm just going to make it the same as the top line. I'll go into each one. I need to make sure this is the same font. Just going to increase this until it lines up. And with each line, I'm just going to adjust the leading, which is the space between the lines of text. So I want to adjust one line at a time. Oops. Highlight this one, because when you increase the font size, your leading increases as well. So unless you want it to, this will kind of help it even out. And then I'm going to grab my rulers. I'm going to kind of block off sections of text that I'm going to change the color on. So I'm going to just line them up so I can visually see where my next block of color is going to line up, okay? So you can center the text frame on the page, which I've done here. Step 2 was select a font with some personality, just depending on your choice of colors. This effect can have different impacts. So here I've gone for kind of a craftsy feel and kind of chose this font to evoke this. You can apply the font to your block of text, pull out different sections of that text and kind of play around with the size and the leading just to create a larger chunk of text in the middle of the block. So kind of like I've done here. This emphasizes can look really cool. And then the font size varies. You can make it super large, like in this case, the smallest font size is 21, the largest is 52. So it varies from about 17 point to 50. Then you can pull out a vertical guide, just like I did, and kind of block off sections of text that we're going to color. Using the guide from the left-hand ruler here on InDesign, you can just click and drag and pull it over, kind of line it up where you kind of basically be marking out sections where you can apply different colors. Then step 5 is creating 4 new CMYK swatches. So what you're going to do is open the window, pull out go to color, swatches, or F5 on your keyboard is the shortcut. This is your swatches panel. And then you'll click new. So we're going to double click here and we're going to custom make a swatch. All right, and then in this case, I'm going to kind of do like a burnt orange, like that. And this will be burnt orange. The next one is going to be more of like a magenta. I'll hit OK, like a pink. Then I'll click new again. Double click this one, and this one I'm going to do a blue. And this time I'm just going to enter the values, 93, 13, 5, and 0. I'll hit OK. And you can always rename this one. This is blue. So I've got and then my last one, create new, double click. And in this case, I'll just enter the values, 83. Or you can use the cursors. This is just whatever colors you want to use. 49 and 10. Hit OK. All right, now you're just going to basically be highlighting. Step 6 is highlighting individual parts of the text within the guidelines. And then you can apply the color in the vertical blocks. So in this case, I'm going to just have to highlight a line by line. My little burnt orange here. And I spelled it wrong too. All right, and then the next block of color is going to be my green. And then the one on the right. Oh, I forgot. We're doing 4, so I probably need to highlight this one. And do blue. So again, you can come up with your own values. But this gives it a cool effect, I think. It's something very simple that you can do to kind of make a big impact. And this is a great way to kind of emphasize a message too. And there you go. So now when you hit W on your keyboard, it does really look cool. It kind of emphasizes what I'm saying here. Yeah, it's kind of a neat way to make your text flow. So basically highlighting the individual parts of the text within the guidelines and applying the color is going to give it a really cool effect. Don't worry if individual characters fall across guidelines. Slightly imperfect application of color is going to give it a jaunty, folk-like look. It's just going to add to the coolness. See you, Randall. Thanks for coming. But after that, you're finished. This is a really great effect to brighten up informal items like cards or invitations. It also looks great with letterpress printing techniques. So if you want to get in the habit of kind of practicing this, but does anybody want to share? Has anyone tried to attempt this? There's a whole slew of design techniques that you can do. There's even create a vintage style effect using the type on the path tool. Lots of fun stuff, but I like the ones that incorporate color and effects. I can show you this one if I can find it. Or actually, I just looked at the clock, so we might not have time for this one. All right, I'll do one really quick. So what you're going to need to create your decorative letter, so all you need is access to Adobe InDesign and a font of your choice. So basically what you're going to do is, I'll shrink this down. You can see that's the final product. Grab your type tool, click and drag. This is serif fonts with a more traditional style tend to work best with this vintage inspired look. So I like going with a serif font. So in this case, we're going to be using Dido. And then I'll click on my letter. Okay, and I'm just enlarging it so it's nice and big. So this is what we're creating here on the left, but you can adapt the design to a letter of your choice. You can simply follow the same steps here, or you can tweak the details to kind of suit your own choice. Again, this is really customizable to what you want to do. Yeah, there is a tutorial on it. I'll shoot you the link over if you want to catch it later. You can check it out. There's steps on there, but you're basically going to open InDesign. Again, you can create a new page. We've already set up a new document for this, but you're going to highlight the letter, and then you're going to go to your 4 swatches. Let's see. So with the type tool selected, you're going to go to Object, Effects. Oops. Select the text box, sorry. Object, Effects. And then you're going to click on the options, and you're going to click on, let's see, Inner Glow. Click on Inner Glow. Okay, and then you're going to set the mode to normal, the technique to precise, the source to center, and then you're going to enter the specific values that they give you, but again, you can customize your own. The choke to 100 and the noise to about 20. All right. And then the color, you're going to pick a custom color if you have one. Hit OK. So it should look something like this. Then the next step is you're going to click on the drop shadow option at the top of the effects. So again, go to Object, Effects, click on Drop Shadow. And this will add a colored shadow to the outside of your letter. So choosing a contrasting color for the effect color, I've kind of gone with a blue. So I'm going to go with this blue here. So it stands out, it's contrast, and you can see it. So I'm going to set the spread to, let's see, where's the spread? Okay, to 100. Okay, spread to 100, and the noise to 10. You can kind of see where it's placed. You can mess with the angle or the direction a little bit, but I'm just going to keep it right here. I'll hit OK. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is select Outer Glow. So again, Object, Effects, Outer Glow. This is a good technique to use, or I should say a good exercise to use when you're trying to explore the effects of InDesign and what all it entails. So once you click that, you're going to set your effects or your mode to normal. And you can either keep the effect color set to the default white, or you can choose a different contrasting swatch. But you want to add about 20% noise and the spread to about 100. Then you can click OK. So it kind of softens that up a little bit. Oops. And then it should start looking like this. You can add extra decorative elements to your letter by just using the drawing tools. I'll zoom in here so you can see. I'm going to grab the pen tool, and you can kind of create your own little design. And then you can grab the smooth tool, it's found underneath your pencil tool, and kind of play around with it so it smooths out the surface. Take off the fill. I'm going to give it a stroke just so I can see it. And then I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and kind of draw a circle. Hold down Shift as you draw it. Again, I'm going to give this a stroke so I can see it. There's a lot of different ways you can do this to achieve this look, but I'm going to kind of make sure that these lines are touching. So I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm making sure that my lines are touching the circle. And then I'm going to click on the circle and grab my scissor tool. And I'm just going to click on the areas that I want to get rid of. So for instance, I'm going to click, undo. Just going to click portions of this circle, pieces that I want to get rid of. Oops. Just like that. With my selection tool, I can now delete it. My scissor tool just makes kind of an incision. And then you can use your tool to kind of adjust things. Grab the scissor tool. Perfect. Okay, so now once you have your design, what you're going to do is, once it's all smoothed out, to combine it, you're going to go to your Object Paths Join. So Object Paths Join, and it's going to join this together. I'm going to give it a blue fill. Whoops. A blue fill, and take off the stroke. Again, you can customize this to whatever you want it to look like. But for the stroke, I'm going to set it to none. And then I'm just going to duplicate it. Kind of flip it around. Like this. And I want them to be the same size. So you can kind of see I'm adding some flair. That's basically what I'm doing. Can shrink it down. Can move this up. I can even grab an ellipse tool and draw a little circle here in the center. Hold down Shift whenever you're resizing the circle. And then you zoom out and you've kind of added some character to, this could be a drop cap. This could be part of a design or a logo. So here's a really cool way to kind of add some oomph to your design. Are there any questions? So here's the thing. If you don't like the pen tool, Amanda, you can kind of just you can draw a circle and then your selection tool and kind of grab an anchor point and kind of play with the direction of it. So that's another way that you can create an interesting design So if you don't want to use the pen tool, you can just play with the anchor points a little bit and kind of see what you come up with. So that's also an option. All right, guys, we're all out of time. I hope this was fun for you, showed you some new tricks in InDesign. I'll be posting the lecture tonight. It should be up by tomorrow morning. So if you don't see it by noon, just message me. But they'll be up by tomorrow morning. I'll post more tutorials on how to do the assignments. And I hope you guys have a good week. We only have one assignment this week, so good luck. Thanks for coming. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.